So hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video it's going to be a bit of a special one. Today the first part of this video is I'm just going to be thanking you all so much for 100 subscribers. At the time of recording this I am at 102. I've only been doing this for just over a month, and I never thought I'd get this far in just over that little amount of time. 100 subscribers was my goal by July. Now looking at it, I've done it in such a short amount of time that I think by July I could possibly be at 150, maybe even 200. But that's still a way away. Before I get into the ranking, which will be the MCU, which is my second favourite franchise of all time. There's a couple of special people I want to give a thank you to, because they've helped me so much just on the YouTube platform in so many different ways, whether it be just bigger YouTubers subscribing to me because they're just genuinely nice people and they want to help me grow, or just people just giving me advice and just helping me, like doing videos with me, getting my name out there. I appreciate it so much, and I'm going to get into thanking these people now. So first up is Blueview, who I've watched for quite a while, and we and him have been contacting over Facebook, and he's just given me such great advice, and I want to thank you very much for that advice, because you've given me so many good tips on how to make my videos better and how to make my content better, and for that I really appreciate it. Next goes to someone who I was on their live stream last night, and that's Magpie Movies, or Paul. Again, another person who's given me so much great advice, and obviously I was a part of his live stream last night, and a couple of people from that live stream subscribed and helped me get towards 100 subscribers. And he's given me, again, so many tips and tricks and just ways to help me improve my YouTube game. So again, thank you to him. A big thank you goes to Big Paulie, who just subscribed to me last night. Big Paulie is someone I've been watching again for quite a while, and to have him subscribe to my channel is amazing. I'd never thought I'd be at a point in my life where I could say that I have Big Paulie subscribed to my channel. It's mind-blowing, and I just want to thank him for that. Next is Jamie Powell, one of the funniest men on YouTube. He's given me, again, great advice, supported my videos, and he's just a genuinely nice person who has helped me on this YouTube platform. So again, to him, thank you. Carlini09, who I've recently been corresponding with over YouTube comments and stuff like that, who's been a great supporter of my channel. Again, bigger in the community than I am, much bigger than I am, but he's been so supportive, so to him I say thank you. Next goes to Mondo Chedovic Movies, I hope I said that right. Again, someone who's come over from a different channel and subscribed to me just because they're such a nice person and left an amazing comment on my video, just because they wanted to help and support my content, which I think is amazing to see how big and wide this YouTube community is, and how there are so many people out there that just want to help the smaller YouTube channels just become so much bigger than they already are, and for that I say thank you. Next is, again, someone who's recently just subscribed to me, who's bigger on the platform than I am, Horror in Todge, who just recently subscribed to me to help me get to 100 subscribers. A great person, because he wants to help smaller YouTubers, and that's what everyone should be striving to do, is not only grow yourself, but to grow the smaller YouTubers, to help them be a bigger part of the community, and more people will want to do YouTube once they see how big and how much the community care about their videos and how much they will help them grow. And I think it's amazing. Next goes to the wonderful filmmaker, Lucas, who has been a great friend on YouTube so far. I was obviously on the Filmmaker Talks a couple of weeks ago. We've corresponded a lot on Instagram and Facebook. He's such a genuinely nice person, and obviously he makes his own short films. He is the filmmaker, and he's an amazing person. So thank you, Lucas, for helping me on YouTube. I really do appreciate it, my friend. Next goes to someone. Thank you goes to someone who I've been talking to before I even had my YouTube channel, because I was such a big fan of his, and that goes to Jordan Movieworm. I got it right this time, Jordan. I know in my first video I called him Jack for some reason, but no, we were talking before I even made a YouTube channel. I think it was like 2 months before I even made a channel. I just said, "Look, mate, I'm one of your big supporters. I've loved your channel. Have you got any advice?" He gave me so much advice, and then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to make my YouTube channel, and he was one of the people that was my main inspiration, so I thank you for that. Next up is an even bigger inspiration, Movie Bug James, who's been on my channel, and I'm on his channel next week, who's been, again, someone who I spoke to before I even had my own channel. He was probably my biggest inspiration to make my YouTube channel, because I know for so many people in this community who look at Blu-ray collections, and mostly 9 times out of 10 everything that pops up is American. Now don't get me wrong, I still do enjoy watching American Blu-ray collections, but they have so many different editions to us that we can't get in the UK. And once I typed in UK into YouTube, James was one of the first people that popped up. And I just was so engrossed in how amazing his channel was. And now he's one of my YouTube friends. Like, he's just an amazing person. He helps this community so much in so many different ways than just helping their videos grow and helping them grow. Everyone on this list is an amazing person, just because they want to help the community and have had a big impact in the community on me. Next goes to one of my good friends on YouTube, Filmflick, Josh. You are an amazing person, an amazing YouTube friend, and you are a great content creator. We are on such a similar wavelength on subscribers. We've got such good chemistry on YouTube, and he's such a good person, and he's helped me a lot on YouTube. I've been in multiple live streams with him. We haven't done one yet on my channel, but I'm sure it will happen without a doubt, probably over the next week, probably. But he's just helped me so much, and I can't thank him enough for it. And the same goes to the next 2 people as well. Film Geek 13, another amazing person. Hopefully my intro does adapt to this video, because he was the one that made that, Film Geek. And obviously for that, thank you. But you've just been a great YouTube friend, and I really do appreciate how much you've helped me, and how much you've just spoken to me about just YouTube and life in general. It's been great corresponding with people who are on the same wavelength as me, who have just started, and we're growing together as a small community, a part of a much wider community. And it's so amazing to do, because these people know what I'm doing, because they're on the same path as me. Like, we're so close in subscribers, and we've grown closer because of that reason. And the last shout out goes to Mr. Alex Pitt, who again has been a great YouTube friend, who's helped me so much in grow in the community. I've obviously been on his channel on one of his live streams, and yeah, we've just spoken so much, and he's given me so much advice and so many tips on how to grow myself as a YouTuber. And to every single one of these people, thank you so much. Without your guys' help, I wouldn't be at where I am right now, and I deeply thank you. But I will stop waffling now and get on to the MCU ranking. And now, this is going to be a controversial one, because there's going to be a lot here that people are going to disagree with, and that's absolutely fine. We all have different opinions, don't come for me, please, please. And as I say, I will get onto the ranking now. In 23rd place, in 23rd place is Captain Marvel. Now, I am in no way a sexist. I think Brie Larson was good in this movie. The only thing that let this movie down was the writing and directing. I think was awful. The cinematography was very good, and the chemistry between the characters was great, and the actors. But the movie just fell flat on its face for me, and that was in no way Brie Larson's fault. But it did stunt the film massively. So in 23rd place is Captain Marvel. In 22nd place is Thor: The Dark World. Now, I'm by no means, with the MCU being my second or third favourite franchise of all time, I don't think in this entire 23 movie run there is one deeply awful movie. And there isn't. And Thor: The Dark World is exactly the same. It's a bad movie, but it's not an awful movie. The story behind it doesn't really hold up with the Thor character. With the Dark Elves having I think it's the Soul Stone or the Resurrection Stone, one of the two, the Red Infinity Stone. And the movie is just about Thor trying to stop the elves from getting that stone, but it ends up finding the stone ends up finding its way into Jane Foster, and the whole movie is him trying to get that stone out of her without it preventing the Dark Elves from getting the stone. The one thing I do like about this movie though is the comedic relief it has in the film, and obviously the strong relationship between Thor and Loki is what makes this movie just that little bit better for me than Captain Marvel, because all these Marvel movies have some sort of comedic relief in them that make them just that bit better than most movies out there. So in 22nd place is the second Thor movie, Thor: The Dark World. In 21st place is a movie that upon rewatch has changed a lot for me, and that's Black Panther. When this movie first came out, I was quite hyped for it because obviously Black Panther's character debuted in Civil War, and he was great in the film, and it was a great introduction to the character. But I think this movie over time has become very, very overrated, and that is no disrespect at all towards its cultural and religious meaning towards the film, and is no way a disrespect towards Chadwick Boseman, who we sadly lost last year. But I just find this movie a tad overrated. There is a couple reliefs that I do have with this film. The cinematography and acting are beautiful. They're wonderful. Chadwick Boseman's performance is amazing in this role. You have Letitia Wright, who plays Shuri, the sister of Black Panther, and their relationship and the funny moments they have in the film are great. Michael B. Jordan in this film is great as the villain. Ulysses Claw, played by Andy Serkis, great in this movie. Winston Duke, for however much he is in the movie, is good. Daniel Kaluuya, great in this movie. All these actors are great in this movie, but there's just something about it that seems so overhyped for me, and I don't know what it is. Maybe upon a couple of rewatches, my opinions will change. But at the minute, there are multiple films that, for me, are better than this in the MCU. And so at 21st in this list is Black Panther. 20th in the list is the black sheep of the MCU, the Incredible Hulk. Now, obviously, if you're doing a MCU marathon, you know that the Incredible Hulk movie is a part of the MCU. But personally, for me, the story has no continuity in the MCU storyline. The only continuity it has is the end credit scene with Thunderbolt Ross and Iron Man, Tony Stark. That's the only tie-ins it has to the MCU for me. The rest of it is probably more like a standalone Hulk movie, purely because we had Edward Norton playing the Hulk in the Incredible Hulk, and then 3 years later, 3 or 4 years later, we had Mark Ruffalo playing the Hulk, who for me is a much better choice for the Hulk. And for me, this movie, the story behind it isn't great. Edward Norton's good in this movie. Liv Tyler isn't good in this movie by a long shot, I don't think. There's not much of a story behind it. Tim Roth is good as the Abomination. We obviously see a cameo appearance from Lou Ferrigno, who played the original Hulk in the TV series. I think it was in the 80s, which I still am yet to watch. But this movie has no story continuity for me, and that's why it's so low down on the list. And I'm sorry if you're a fan of this movie, but it just, for me, does not fit into this timeline or this saga whatsoever. In 20th place is The Incredible Hulk. In 19th place, this is probably going to be a bit of a controversial one. I've gone with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, from the first Guardians of the Galaxy, most people were thinking, great, another blunder from the MCU that no one's going to enjoy. But the first movie was so much fun. It was Indiana Jones in space. It was brilliant how all these actors were brought together to make a rogue superhero team. And this movie was so much fun and so enjoyable that I was so excited for the sequel, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And for me, it was a big letdown. It took a massive step down from the 2014 predecessor. The characters still had great chemistry. The comedic side of this film was still on point. The relationship between Peter Quill and Yondu was still brilliant, but the story just fell apart for me a bit. I think they, at some points in this movie, tried to be too funny, I believe, but it's in no way a terrible movie, but it is a massive step down from Guardians of the Galaxy. In 18th place is Ant-Man and the Wasp, the sequel to, in my opinion, the most underrated MCU film, the Ant-Man. This one does bring back Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, Michael Douglas as Hank Pym, Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp, finally, and introduces Michelle Pfeiffer as the original Wasp, the wife of Hank Pym and the mother of the Wasp, who I forget her name in the film. But this movie is very underwhelming. It had a very bland villain. It had a very bland story. The only good thing again about this film was the comedic relief. Other than that, there's not much in this film that makes it that great. And I'm sorry if you're a fan of this movie, but it's not great. In 17th place is the first Thor movie. The first introduction we've had to Thor. We obviously saw at the end of, I think it was Iron Man 2. We see the end credit scene where I can't remember the guy's name, who's in the main character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent Coulson, that's it. We see him go to an abandoned site, and in the middle of the dirt is Thor's hammer, and it obviously sets up so much excitement for the Thor movie. And it just, for me, it was very bland. It didn't have much behind it. Obviously directed by Kenneth Branagh. I think this is one of his first directed movies. Yeah, it weren't great. Again, the comedic side was good. The relationship between Thor and Loki was good. But yeah, there's not much I can really say about this movie that makes it any better for me. I just think it's very bland and very meh. And probably one that probably won't change my opinion on rewatch. In 16th place is the second Iron Man movie from 2010. In my opinion, this movie is solely a setup movie to the first Avengers film. I think Mickey Rourke as the villain is quite bad. We've obviously got Sam Rockwell as another villain in this movie. He's not great in this film. Robert Downey Jr. is always great in these movies, and Jon Favreau's great in these movies as well. We saw the introduction of Scarlett Johansson into the MCU as Black Widow, or as a SHIELD operative. She was great in it for the role that she did play. Gwyneth Paltrow was again back for the sequel, but this movie just was quite... It was a complete setup movie, and that's why I think many people don't like it, because they know that it's solely a setup movie and not really an Iron Man movie. The villain doesn't do much, he's not really that intimidating. Yeah, sorry guys. In 15th place, this is probably going to be another controversial one, Spider-Man Far From Home. The sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, and yeah, I don't really find this a great movie. I love the first one, Homecoming. I was very, very excited to see this movie, and it disappointed me. It really did. Obviously, it was set in London, which is my hometown. I love London. But this movie just had nothing behind it. Jake Gyllenhaal was brilliant in this movie as Mysterio. Tom Holland was brilliant as Spider-Man. We saw the return of J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in the end credit scene. Zendaya was good in this movie again. Jacob Batalon was good as Ned again. We saw Samuel L. Jackson return in this movie. He had some very funny lines. This is a great movie for comedic effect, but for me, it really doesn't feel like a Spider-Man movie. It just feels like Marvel are trying to push Spider-Man to be the next Iron Man, and it's really not a path I want to see Tom Holland's Spider-Man go down, because for me, other than Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Spider-Man has felt like the most comic book accurate Spider-Man we've ever seen, and he's probably my second favourite Spider-Man solely because of that reason. And I don't want to see his character fall down a path that we're all going to end up saying, well, another Spider-Man wasted. In 14th place is Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, in chronological order, this is the first MCU movie. In release order, I think it's the 5th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. There's a bit too much dialogue in this film and not enough action, obviously, if you expect it from a Captain America side. You know there's going to be a lot of war aspects involved, which I'm not a massive fan of war movies. I am trying to get more into war movies. But, yeah, this film doesn't really do much for me. I do like the relationship between Cap and Bucky. I think that's a great relationship. But this movie doesn't really do much for me, and I'm sorry, but I know that a lot of people out there love this movie, but I just don't find that much enjoyment in it. In 13th place is the movie that kicked off the entire MCU, Iron Man. Yeah, again, I don't have massive problems with this movie, but I do find that there are so many better movies than this one. Obviously, you've got to see it from a retrospective of that this was the movie that made the MCU. It made so much money at the box office. Robert Downey Jr. was great in the role. And I think it's a good Iron Man movie. But in terms of the MCU, I think it's one of their weakest. It's probably the second best Iron Man movie, but it's one of the weakest in the MCU. And I'm sorry if you like that, but it just doesn't do much for me. In 12th place, in my opinion, is the second most underrated Marvel MCU movie, Ant-Man. I thought Paul Rudd was perfect for the role. Michael Douglas was perfect for the role of Hank Pym. I think it was, to my knowledge, very comic book accurate with the suit and stuff like that. I found the whole retrospective of him being in prison and then him coming out from being like a burglar. I thought that was a good aspect to the movie, because I can't quite remember if he was a burglar, like a house burglar, in the comics. But I just thought this was such a fresh approach to not only the character, but for the first time viewing of the character in the MCU. And I thought the movie was great. But it again does fall short to the movies that are above it. And I personally think it has a bit of flaw in the story. If it didn't have that, I think it would be a little bit higher up on my list. In 11th place is Doctor Strange. The introduction of Benedict Cumberbatch into the MCU as Dr. Stephen Strange. We'd been wanting to see Benedict Cumberbatch in the MCU for so long, and he's perfect for the role of Doctor Strange. And I think this movie is great. I think it's very underrated, but again, in terms of the movie above it, movies above it, I think it falls flat a little bit. I love the comedic relief in this film. Obviously, Benedict Cumberbatch is great in the film. Rachel McAdams is great in the film. I love the guy that plays Wong in this film. I think he's very, very funny. You've obviously got the end credit scene with Doctor Strange and Thor, leading up to Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, I think this movie is just great overall. But again, there's something in the storyline that, for me, makes it fall flat just that little bit to the films above it. So in 11th place is Doctor Strange. Now we're into the top 10. And I think a lot of people are going to have a problem with my top 10. But please let me know your opinions down below. This is going to be quite a long video, and I do apologise for that. But I just wanted to get this video out, and for me to say thank you to all of you. But nonetheless, I will finish this up and try and go as quickly as possible. In 10th place is Iron Man 3. In my opinion, the best of the Iron Man trilogy. I think Robert Downey Jr. This is his best outing as Iron Man. We obviously see him come up against the Mandarin, played by Ben Kingsley, who I thought was a very, very funny character. But throughout the film, he was mainly based as the main villain. But it wasn't him, it was Cillian Armitage, I think is his name in the film. His name's on the tip of my tongue, he's the person that plays him. But he's great in this film. Gwyneth Paltrow's great again in this film. It takes Iron Man on a more personal adventure in the third movie, and I think that's what makes it quite a bit better than the first Iron Man movie. It mainly focuses on the relationship between Tony and Pepper, and the relationship between Tony and Happy, and how he's trying to move away from the Iron Man life, or trying to make it his second life, and put his family in front of him, and focus on being a family man rather than being Iron Man. And I think this movie is great. I think a lot of people underrate this film massively, and I personally prefer this over the original Iron Man. So in 10th place is Iron Man 3. In 9th place is the second Avengers movie, Avengers Age of Ultron. We see the team in Russia, I think it's Russia, infiltrating a military base in the beginning of the film. We see all the main Avengers return from the first Avengers movie, but we also see the introduction of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, played by Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen, and we also see the introduction of Paul Bettany as Vision instead of Jarvis, the voice. His character's finally brought to life in the form of Vision, who I think is a great character in the MCU. I think he's a fresh approach to it, and I'm loving WandaVision as well. I can't wait for this week's episode. That should be brilliant. And we obviously get to see James Spader as Ultron, the big bad of this Avengers outing. And overall, before I rewatched this movie a couple of times, and I didn't think it was that great and probably didn't deserve to be an Avengers movie. But upon a couple of more rewatches, this movie, to me, is very underrated and shouldn't be looked on as that. I think it's great. It obviously is the weakest Avengers movie, but by no means do I think it's an awful movie. It's just not that great compared to the other three. So in 9th place is Avengers Age of Ultron. In 8th place is the movie that came out, I think, just before Age of Ultron, which is Guardians of the Galaxy. One of my favourite MCU movies. This movie is just so much fun. the first introduction of the Guardians of the Galaxy that we've had in the MCU, and I just thought everyone, from the moments they saw the trailer, thought to themselves, "Oh, great! Here's another Band of Rogue. This is another garbage Marvel movie that's not going to make much money at all, and is probably going to be one of the weakest MCU movies." And it was such a big surprise. Indiana Jones in space. This movie is great. It has great comedic relief. The characters have great chemistry. We see Ronan the Accuser for the first time, although in chronological order and timeline, he's the villain for Captain Marvel, and returns for Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think he's great in the role. Yondu is made out to be a villain, but we obviously find out, spoiler alert, in the second movie that he's not as bad as we think he is. He's the one that cared for Peter all along. I thought Dave Bautista is great in this movie. He's perfect for the role of Drax. Zoe Saldana is brilliant as Gamora. Bradley Cooper is brilliant as Rocket Raccoon. And even though we don't hear him talk that much, Vin Diesel as Groot, bigger Groot, not baby Groot. I think he done a really good voice role. And obviously we've got Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, who I think is brilliant. And overall, I think this movie is great, and is definitely one of the more underrated Marvel movies, because so many people look at it as more of a kids Marvel movie than they do a more mature adult MCU movie. So in 8th place is Guardians of the Galaxy. In 7th place is Spider-Man Homecoming. In my opinion, the most comic book accurate Spider-Man movie we've ever had, apart from Spider-Man 2. Tom Holland was perfect for this role. We see the introduction of Tom Holland as Spider-Man in Civil War. His introduction was brilliant. We obviously see him team up in this film with Tony Stark, Iron Man. Their relationship is phenomenal. It's a very big father-son relationship, and I think it's great. We obviously get to see Zendaya as MJ, and Jacob Batalon as Ned, who is Peter Parker's best friend, and he's such a great character. Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. She's really good, probably the best Aunt May we've had, in my opinion. And I just think this movie is so much fun, and in my opinion is the most comic book accurate version of Spider-Man we've ever seen. In 6th place is Thor Ragnarok. The Taika Waititi take on the Thor character, and is by far the best Thor movie, and my personal favourite Thor movie. The comedic aspect of this film is amazing. The relationship between Thor and Hulk are great. We obviously get to see the long-awaited introduction of Korg and Miek. Korg, obviously voiced by the director Taika Waititi, who's done so many more great movies, and this movie is no exception. This movie is brilliant and is a great addition into the MCU. A lot of people were probably expecting this movie to be bad because of the two movies we've had before it, but it surprised so many people and is a phenomenal movie, and I just think it's so great. In 6th place is Thor Ragnarok. Into the top 5 now. In 5th place is the first Marvel movie I saw in the cinemas, Avengers Assemble. The first solo Avengers movie we've had ever, and it was amazing. The first time we see Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Hulk, Black Widow, Hawkeye. Am I forgetting someone? No, I'm not. But seeing these team up for the very first time and take on Loki as the main villain of this movie is brilliant. This movie blew me away. It is such, and is my third personal favourite Avengers movie. And every time upon rewatch, this movie for me just gets better. And visually, it is stunning. Obviously, everyone in this film is great. We obviously see the relationship sort of fall apart between Loki and Thor. But everyone in this film, from start to finish, is brilliant. And everything about this film, from start to finish, phenomenal. In fourth place is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Now, a lot of people are going to be sort of like, huh? Why have you put this in fourth place and not like much higher up? Is because I personally think that the final Thor movie, Captain America movie, is just that bit better than this. But by no means, this movie is phenomenal. I think this was the Russo brothers' first Marvel-directed movie. Chris Evans massively stepped up as Captain America in this movie. I thought he was brilliant. Scarlett Johansson was great in this movie. We obviously got to see Bucky come back as the Winter Soldier, the main villain for this movie, along with Han Zemo, who I forget who he's played by. I always forget it every single time. And of course, Samuel L. Jackson was brilliant in this movie. The action in this movie was stunning. The choreographers done an amazing job. The cinematography, again, is brilliant. This movie all round is brilliant, but it just falls short just that little bit to the top three. In third place, this is going to be probably the most controversial one on the list. In third place is Avengers End Game. Now, this movie is brilliant. It is a great culmination to the story of Thanos, Iron Man and Captain America. We see at the end of the film Captain America grow old, travel back in time to spend his good years with Peggy Carter, what he always wanted to do all along since the first Captain America movie. We finally saw the Avengers come together as one massive unit with all the Marvel characters in the MCU in its entirety. But we sadly lost Iron Man, which we knew was going to happen. But from start to finish, this movie was incredible. But the only problem, there is two problems I have with this film. One, for me, there is a bit too much dialogue, and two, the runtime for me is slightly too long. If they dropped it down by about 15 to 20 minutes, this movie would be number one for me. But the runtime's a bit too long. It's a bit too much dialogue, and that's what I think makes it third place for me. And I know I'm going to get so much flack for that in the comments, but yeah, they're my two main reasons for this movie not being number one. In second place is my favourite Captain America movie, my second favourite MCU movie, Captain America Civil War. Now, for me personally, this movie should have been an Avengers movie. We saw the split up of some of the Avengers, and a big fight happened between Tony Stark, Iron Man, and Steve Rogers, Captain America. They all had different teams, both had different teams. One wanted to go towards the Soviet Accords, the others didn't. And this is just from start to finish, my God, what a phenomenal movie. We get to see the return of obviously Captain America, because this is his film, Iron Man, Black Widow, Vision, the return of Hawkeye. Paul Rudd's Ant-Man is introduced more to the Marvel Universe, rather than him just being in his own solo film for a couple more years before he's introduced into the Avengers. He's brought more bit into the fold. We've obviously got the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. We've obviously got Falcon, Sam Wilson, one of Captain America's good friends, finally suits up to help Cap take on Iron Man and protect Bucky, even though their relationship isn't the best. But the thing that makes this movie just that bit better is because my second favourite superhero character of all time gets introduced finally into the MCU, and that is Tom Holland's Spider-Man. His introduction was brilliant. The way he just flipped over everybody and just whipped Captain America's shield right out of his hand was such a great introduction. We obviously got to see the introduction of the late great Chadwick Boseman as the Black Panther, who I thought was brilliant in this movie. This movie all round is absolutely phenomenal, and it gets again better on every rewatch. And finally, because I don't want to keep you here any longer, my number one favourite MCU movie, Avengers Infinity War. The culmination to, or the last hurdle before the Avengers finally take on Thanos. We do see the big introduction to the big bad of the MCU, Josh Brolin's Thanos, who in this movie was absolutely phenomenal. We got to see the Avengers all come together with the introduction of the Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, and obviously the reoccurring Avengers that have been in the past movies. They all come into this movie. The relationship is starting to be fixed between Captain America and Iron Man. We see the Avengers introduction to Doctor Strange, who was a massive role in this movie. But this movie is nigh on perfect for me. The dialogue is at a perfect length. The action, a perfect length. 2 hours and 45 minutes is a perfect runtime for an Avengers movie. And for me, this is the best MCU movie. Thank you very much for listening to me waffle on for such a long time. Obviously, the first part of this video was solely me thanking you all so much for the support that I've been given. And I hope that support continues because I'm loving doing YouTube. And the second part was the MCU ranking, which I've been wanting to do for such a long time. So I do thank you very much for if you've stuck around for the past 40 or so minutes. I really do hope you're enjoying my content. If you're new around here, please like, comment and subscribe. If you're not new around here, welcome back to the channel. It's brilliant to see your face again and see you enjoying the content. Please like and comment and do continue to show your amazing support. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye guys.